Thanks for tuning in, and my name is Kizzi, editor of My Entrepreneur magazine. Now, I know that it's been said before that my next guest really needs no introduction, and you think, well, how important can this person be? But really, I promise you, my next guest really needs no introduction. She's a really good friend of mine, Taine, who is the executive director and the brains behind a digital marketing agency called Vent to Me. Now, Vent to Me is based in Melbourne, Australia. I know that a lot of agencies try to differentiate themselves by saying we are special, we are different, but I've got to tell you, these guys really are different. If you go to their website, the first thing you're going to see is a notice that says, Vent to Me is a little bit different. When someone says you can't do a thing, we try our darnest to prove them wrong. Now, doesn't that just hit the spot? We love that. Julia Taine, it's fantastic having you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Julia, I've got to say that I have been stalking you just a little bit, okay? I've just been stalking you a little bit. When I first heard about you a long, long time ago, I looked up your credentials to find out who you are and what you do and why you do it. And I've got to say, your credentials are amazing. And the question that I had, as soon as I sort of stopped stalking you, is why? Why is this woman working in digital? She could do anything in the entire world. Why digital marketing?
It's because I love digital. What I love about digital marketing is it gives power back to small business. If we think back Facebook's 10 years old, for example, 10 years ago, a small business such as a plumber or something like that would not have the same ability to market themselves like a larger business. If you're thinking about how much you would have to do for a TV advert or even an advert in a newspaper or magazine, you're pretty much pushed out by larger business. Whereas with digital marketing, a business of any size, from a sole trader and even someone running a hobby business up to a large business, can promote the services online. And that's what I love about the power to connect people. And the fact that digital allows you to do that is really evident in the fact how we're talking. So, I'm based in Melbourne, Australia, and you're based in France. I've got, clients in the United States that I wouldn't have normally been able to get if it wasn't for digital marketing.
Isn't it terrifying to a lot of businesses, though, how things have changed so dramatically over the past 10 years? Because, as you say, a few years ago, this type of conversation would have been impossible. So it just means that things are changing so quickly, aren't they?
It is changing, but the one thing that always comes back to it is customer service. If you've got good customer service and you have good processes, you will succeed in the digital world. Where people fall down, and you can see it, there's always news articles on it, is people or websites or companies that don't have good social media policies or good website policy when it comes to complaint handling. You can go onto Twitter and just type in telephone complaint or credit card complaint, and you'll get a barrage of tweets regarding that. And what it is if you need to realize if a consumer purchases from you online or contacts you online or visits your store face-to-face, the customer interaction is the same. So you need to provide customer service regardless of which platform they use. And often businesses think because it's a social medium, because it is, a little bit more friendlier, a little bit more interactive, that you don't have to have the same processes in place. And that's false. So let's just think about the example. If, say, you email me and I got back to you 2 weeks later and, had a quick email reply, you wouldn't be very happy. If you contacted me on Facebook with a potential inquiry and I got back to you 2 weeks later, you wouldn't be happy. If you rang me and I got back to you in 2 weeks later, you wouldn't be happy. If you came to my store about a shop front and I couldn't be bothered serving you because I was talking to someone else, you wouldn't be happy. So it doesn't matter which way a customer interacts with you or engages with you, you have to have good customer service. Without customer service, businesses aren't going to succeed in the long run.
I remember a couple of months ago, I had a problem with my mobile phone. So I got on the phone to the people who sold us the mobile, and I said, look, this phone isn't working, it's not doing what it should do. And as I was talking to him, I noticed that the guy I was speaking to had gone a bit quiet, and then suddenly he interrupted me, and he said, are you Kizzi, the editor of the Entrepreneur magazine, who also runs this magazine? And I said, yeah, why? He said, oh, I've just been Googling you. I said, what? For customer service people now Google their potential customers just to find out what sort of social impact they can have on their business. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it's so true. I've just had something similar with a telephone provider in Australia. Exactly the same thing. They said, we understand that you're quite familiar with social media, with e-commerce, etc. So they vetted me based on my level of social media and digital expertise. Now, because of that, they obviously gave me a very effective customer service resolution process. And I guess it is scary in regards to how much data businesses are getting on customers. But at the same time, if a customer wants things delivered on time for the cheapest amount of price, so there are going to be some liberties that are being missed. But from a business perspective, we're getting data that we never had access before. So with social media, even for your website, you can see when people are going onto your website, what pages they're most likely to click on, what articles they're reading. So no one can really have a bad website. I always get surprised by how people can have a really high bounce rate, which is a percentage of people who go onto your website and click off straight away. Now, ideally, you want to have that less than 25%. I've seen websites that have it as high as 95%. So that means that only 5% of your website traffic stay on your site. Now, straight away, you start to think and go, okay, if people are coming to the site but they're clicking off, there must be a content point of view. So you can really optimize and improve your website and your social media and any digital aspect, on an ongoing basis. And I guess that's what kind of scares people, because it's different to when you do something in print. You print your catalogue and it's done for the year. But digital marketing does evolve over time, and it will change. But if you do it right in the first place, it's going to make it a lot easier. And that's what I'm really big on with my company, and why it's called Vent to Me, I guess, is because I realised business owners did need someone to vent to, and they needed someone who would empower them and show them the way of how it should be done, and teaching them the tools of the trade. My attitude has always been, instead of giving someone a fish, I'll show them how to fish. I have one example of a client earlier this year. She's a website and search engine optimization client of mine, and she had a really bad relationship with her previous website developer. She was a bit skeptical about doing a new website, doing all this. And what I did was I sat with her and I kept on saying, you need to do blogs. You need to communicate with your database about changes. She's a bookkeeper, about legislation, changes to bookkeeping processes. And she said, but I did it on the previous site and it didn't really work. So what I did was I taught her about Google Analytics, and I was able to show her that every time she did a blog post, there was a spike in traffic. And I'm not talking about a 5% spike. I'm talking about, 50 to 60% spike in traffic to her website. So she was able to see that every time she did a blog post, she got more traffic to her website. Because she got more traffic to her website obviously started to rank better organically. Because it was starting to rank better organically, she was then getting inquiries. So she could see why doing things like blogs was of benefit to her. And most of the problem is with digital marketing is people don't know why you're doing it.
I have a prediction that in a couple of years' time, maybe in that 5 years' time, the term digital marketing will be obsolete because all marketing will have to be digital.
Yes.
I think that, in a couple of years' time, we're going to be sitting around having a cup of cocoa and talking about the old days and saying, do you remember, Julia, when we used to call digital marketing digital marketing?
Yeah.
It's changing so quickly that eventually, if you're not marketing yourself digitally, you're going to be obsolete anyway, aren't you?
Correct. People may not realise, but, with your phones, for example, if you type in a restaurant, Thai restaurant, for example, if you're on your phone, it will look for restaurants that are based on your location. So it's all about local search. So if you don't have a website and you're a local restaurant and someone's in the area looking for restaurants, you're not going to come up. Most people in businesses don't realise that by the time that someone's gone and inquired with you, they've probably looked at your website, they've looked at your social media, they've looked at your competitors' websites and their social media. So if you're not on there or not actively engaging, why would a customer want to engage with you?
When we talk about digital marketing, the question that I had in my back of my mind is, Why didn't you just go and get a job, Julia? You obviously know what you're talking about. You're passionate about this subject. I'm pretty sure that any company in the world would cut their arms off to get you. Why didn't you just go get a job and get working in a department somewhere?
It's an interesting story, actually. When I was younger, I was about probably four years into my career. I used to catch a train from the local station, and I was walking past this store that sold nuts, nuts and lollies and so forth, and I knew straight away that they weren't going to succeed. I just had that feeling, that gut feeling in my stomach that they weren't going to succeed. And I don't like nuts, but I would go in there like once a week to buy nuts because I felt so personally sorry for them and personally, emotionally connected to these people that I didn't actually really know that well. And they were the nicest, hardest working people I have ever met. They were immigrants who wanted to make obviously a better life for themselves, had put investment into this business and thought it was going to succeed. Well, 6 months down the track, they closed. I don't know what's happened to them since, and still makes me feel guilty that I didn't speak up to them and give them suggestions or improvements of what they could do. And that story kind of stuck in my mind because I realized there are businesses out there that do amazing things, but they don't necessarily do their marketing really well, and that's because they're not professionals in it. So I'm not a bookkeeper. I don't like doing bookkeeping. I don't like doing invoicing. I like getting paid. I just don't like doing that process. So I made the decision early on to get a bookkeeper to help me with my business. Best decision I ever made because she'll do an invoice for me in 2 minutes. If I was going to do it, I would procrastinate, stuff around, and probably 3 days later finally get around to doing it. And business owners need to know that they can't be a jack of all trades. If you're a cafe and your speciality is making cakes and that's what you're best at, that's what you need to do. Then you can get your marketing or your coaching and get someone in who's an expert to help you support the business. I worked in different businesses for up to about 10 years, and my background was very heavily in education. So I worked in marketing for a few education institutes in Victoria, then went into corporate advertising, and then my last job prior to deciding to take the business wasn't the best experience because unfortunately there was a lot of workplace bullying there, not to me per se, but to other staff. And I guess I realised that the potential of people. There was people in this business who were amazing. They were amazing at what they did, but they weren't realised to their full potential because of the way the management operated. So I made the decision to, I guess, go out on my own, give it a go, and actually help people who want to be helped. And touch wood, it's been very successful. It's been an interesting journey, but it's been the best thing that I've ever done. I've been able to help a lot of businesses achieve their marketing goals, which is what gets me up in the morning. My philosophy of Vent to Me is that the customer is the number one priority. With they're our world. Without them, I wouldn't have a business. So it's that constant drive to want to help business owners succeed.
I can tell you what, on the companies that sparked this off, the nuts and lollies business, yes. I've got to say, that's a strange combination, isn't it? Yes. Nuts and lollies. I mean, there's a problem there straight away. I mean, is that popular in Australia, nuts and lollies?
Yes and no, but more like a shopping centre, like as a little arcade. This was near a station, not far from a major supermarket, and then there was also another minor supermarket, and you had a lot of cafes. And I guess they thought there was a niche to be there. Maybe back home that's something that they would have done, and they were hoping to get students in who wanted to buy mass lollies and those sort of things. And the rent in that area in particular was also really expensive. And, the amount of investment that they would have put into this business and the amount of energy, it still cuts me inside to think about these business owners that would have put the whole life savings into it.
Yeah, and they work just as hard as anybody, but it's just that magical ingredient. It's just that one element. That people think that marketing is something that they should do or they will do later or they might have It's the most essential part of any business mix.
It always happens that, budget's tight or sales go down and people cut their marketing. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in the industry, but when your sales are down and your money and your sales at the lowest, that's when you need to increase marketing, because you need to have a continued pipeline, stability of ideas. The problem is people, particularly I'd say in Australia, we tend to be more reactive. So, for example, it's Christmas coming up, and businesses now will be thinking, okay, what can I do about Christmas? Whereas really you need to be thinking about it, 2 months beforehand. You need to start, you need to be starting your marketing and planning ahead, whether it's quarterly, yearly, or, half yearly, because you're going to get left behind, particularly in the digital world where things do happen very quickly. A really good example of that was the Oreo Super Bowl tweet that they did a few years ago when the lights went out at the Super Bowl. There was a blackout, and Oreo did a tweet about you can still dunk in the dark. Now, that's clever marketing 101, but there would have been a strategy behind that, and the strategy being that Oreo is obviously a cheeky, fun brand, so they were empowered to do that.
I love it. You can still dunk in the dark.
Yeah, it's so clever. And now, I think it was 2012 or 2013, still a few years later, it resonates with people. So you need to have, I know people don't like the word strategy, but you do need to have a strategy in place behind as to why you're doing things. Once you realize why you're doing it, then you're going to be a lot more happier, A, spending the money, and B, with the outcome.
And who are your clients? Who are event-to-me clients? Are they mainly your one-man bands, your nuts and lolly people, or are you looking at the more corporate end of the market?
They vary. I've got sole traders from up to businesses with about 100 staff. I don't particularly like large corporates, because my personality, if you can tell from this interview, is I don't take no for an answer. And I find some of these very large corporates have a lot of bureaucracy. I don't deal well with bureaucracy. I can respect it and understand there's a place for it. But my philosophy is if we've got an idea, you need to go with it. So the biggest client I've got about 100 staff. And they're very flat organisational structure. Larger corporates than that, if they had a flat organisational structure, I would be interested to work with them. But if they were very bureaucratic, I would not be interested in, because I don't really see why they need marketing if it's going to change, if there's going to be 6 versions by the time they approve it. The difference with my company is, we actually turn down clients. We don't take every client on. If it's a product, we always try the product before we decide to go ahead with them. If it's a service, we try the service as well, because I only want to work with people who are passionate about what they do, because I've been there. There are days when you don't want to get out of bed in the morning. You just, from the word go, it's just a bad day. And I only want to work with those people that are passionate about what they do, that will get up at 6 o'clock in the morning when they've been up to 2 in the morning trying to do the work.
Believe me, we've all had days when we think to ourselves, why bother? I mean, when you have those days when you don't want to get up in the morning, what gets you out of bed? What motivates you?
What motivates me is the smiles on my client. I know it sounds cheesy, but there's one client in particular who's a bookkeeper I mentioned previously, Loretta, from Quick Business Bookkeeping Solutions. The smile on her face and the impact that the website and the digital marketing strategy has on her is just beautiful. She treats me like I'm the Queen of England, that I'm royalty. So I remember those times of when I was able to cut through to a client and was able to tell them and able to show them so they could see the light. And that's what gets me up in the morning, is knowing that I am making a difference. Yes, I may not be a doctor or a nurse or, I'm not saving lives, but I'm saving businesses.
Which in some cases does save a life, because
I guess so.
That if your business goes down the toilet, you often think, well, what's the point of living, really?
You do realise I'm going to use that now next time my husband says, why aren't you going to bed? And go, well, I'm saving lives.
I like that. And every time you use that, could I have 10%? who are your role models? Who inspires you? Do you have people that you look up to and you say, this is the sort of person that's achieved the sort of success that I want to achieve?
The obvious answer, of course, would be Richard Branson from a business perspective, because I love that he doesn't give a crap about what people think. He does what he loves to do and what he's passionate about. And that's what I always tell business owners, that when it comes down to it, you may not be the best speaker, you may not be the most attractive person, you may be a few kilos heavier than you'd like to be, or, you know, you've got grey hair in your roots in your hair or whatever, and you're not happy about yourself. People don't look at that. What they care about is your passion. If you're passionate about what you're going to do, you're going to attract other people. The other role model of mine, and this is an Australian thing, and I've spoken to you about this before, is the band In Excess, which is my favourite band for a few reasons. But
I was waiting for you to mention.
Yeah.
I thought, how long is it going to be before she mentions In Excess? Go on, tell us about In Excess.
Basically, what I love about them is they were underdogs. So I can talk about In Excess for hours, but I'll keep it brief. But basically, they played across. And if you've been to Australia, we're a large country. They played all across the east coast and west coast of Australia for many years in pubs, close to almost every night, sometimes 2 gigs a night. And they worked really, really hard, but had the passion. So when they got to the world stage and, they were at Wembley Stadium in 1991 and played to a crowd of 20,000 people, they worked for it. And that's what I really love about In Excess. Is also their music's awesome, but the fact that they were an underdog that achieved great things. Now, people didn't think that they were going to get to the level that they were going to get to, and they basically said, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that's what comes back to my ethos, is you can do anything you want to do if you set your mind to it.
Does it matter that their lead singer, Michael, what's his name? Michael Hutchins?
Yes.
He's not bad looking, is he?
No, that also helps as well. I do have a little bit of a love crush on Michael Hutchins. So anyone who reads my bio will obviously read that I have a crush on Michael Hutchins and also Bruce Springsteen.
And Bruce Springsteen as well.
Yeah. For the similar reason, because he's, again, passionate, enthusiastic, not bad looking for his age, but I love music. Like, I find it so inspiring. I can't sing, so I'm not going to sing for you because your audience will turn off. I went to his concert, and I went to 2 concerts of his, actually, and you could tell in the audience that everyone was in tune with him. He could have told people to take clothes off, jump around, act crazy, and people would have done it, and that's what I love. And Richard Branson's the same. I love people who can positively influence the world for better. It's
amazing you talk about people like Bruce Springsteen and Richard Branson and In Excess, people that almost everybody in the world would recognize, but what they don't know, what they don't see is all the hard work that's gone into getting those people to where they are now.
Exactly, and I have experienced, I guess, what you'd call a tall poppy syndrome along the way, and it's one thing that business owners really struggle with, particularly in the digital world, because you don't want to be that, you don't want to be a Kardashian all the time who's shouting out about, look at me, how great I am, I'm amazing, etc. And what can happen, I don't know if it's more an Australian cultural thing, but they love an underdog, and then you get too successful, and then they try to push you down. And it can be hard for a business owner to shake that off and go, well, actually, I am who I am, and that I can promote myself. I've done the hard work. And I've had, ex-friends who aren't in my life anymore for that reason, because they just looked at the achievements but didn't look at the hard work. There were days where I was up to 6 in the morning and then had to go I teach digital marketing at an education institute in Melbourne. And, I was teaching at 8:30 in the morning. So unfortunately, you have to do those things as a business owner, but because I love what I do, it doesn't feel like work. And I know that's cliche to say, but, I honestly, I've got so much love for what I do that, the more website jobs I get, the more SEO, the more business clients I get, I love it. Not just obviously because of the money, but because of the interaction.
Can you imagine doing anything different? Can you imagine packing it up and just thinking, oh, I don't fancy doing this anymore?
No.
Never?
No, I would, unless if there's, no, because you know what I love is because the industry isn't always full of, I guess, ethical people, and I know it's a terrible thing to say, but there are marketers out there, like there are lawyers, doctors, doesn't matter what industry there is, that aren't ethical, who are the ones that will get clients in for the wrong reason because they want to make money and rip them off and whatever. And I can see the industry is becoming more like that, but that makes me want to work harder because it makes me go, well, if this company thinks they can do it this way and they think they can act in an unethical way, I'm going to show them otherwise, and I'm going to do the best I can by my clients.
Okay, so let's just fast forward 100 years from now, when people are talking about the early days of Vent2Me, this digital marketing this marketing agency that has set standards that everybody else is judged by, and they're talking about how it all started. How would you like to be remembered or talked about in the years to come when we're not here anymore?
As an innovator that transformed the digital marketing space for business owners. So ideally what I would love to see, I have this idea, trademark pending, no, kidding, of having, you know how you've got mobile mortgage advisors and you've got mobile bank lenders that go around and see. I have this vision of Vent2Me mobile cars with marketing that people have been vetted by me that will go out and meet with clients, who will go out and transform businesses, almost, I guess, like a marketer on call. So, you know, if you've got a medical, we have a service, you know, doctor after hours, and you have a problem, you can call up a doctor and they'll come and see you. I'd love to see something like that. So if you've got an urgent problem where you need marketing advice or you need your website fixed, that we've got an army of Vent2Me cars going around that will come and help you.
I'm seeing a TV show out of this. I'm seeing a fantastic 10-episode TV program. Yeah. Reality, you know, documentaries are kind of style, but basically looking at small business owners that have immediate problems to do with their marketing, their brand image, and they make that call, and then those cars arrive, and they what do you think?
Yeah, oh, that would be brilliant. Because by the time something's become urgent, you've pretty much thought about it already. Like, you may not realize overtly you've been thinking about it, but you've been thinking about it, and then you need to make that change now. Now, often what happens is you have to wait. By the time you wait, you've lost the I guess, not the passion, the enthusiasm for it, and you've also probably lost the opportunity. So how cool would it be that when you need someone, like when you want pizza delivered in 30 minutes, that you can have someone who will come, work with you for as long as you need and get it done.
I like it. That's a fantastic idea. I'm glad I thought of this idea, and I'm going to... No, it's a brilliant... honestly, you have to do this. You have to, because it's such an... If you don't do it, somebody else...
I know. Now that I put it out there, I put it out to the universe. So you heard it here first. Mobile Marketers by Vent2Me.
I like it, and it's copyrighted, so if you're going to try and nick it, you better get yourself lawyered up, because we're going to get you out with Julia.
Yes.
Fantastic. Julia, it's been wonderful talking to you. It's been such a great pleasure, and I'll tell you what, in a couple of months' time, I want to come back to you just to talk to you some more about digital marketing and how the landscapes change, but until then, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.